Welcome to the All Things Nintendo podcast. I'm Brian Shea from Game Informer, and this is a weekly podcast to discuss all the biggest news and games from the world of Nintendo. In stark contrast to last week, which, by the way, if you listen to all 3.5 hours of that, I salute you. This week is fairly light on news. However, we do have 2 all-new Switch exclusives to talk about, as well as a few anniversaries I would like to touch on. So joining me for all of that is my friend and yours, Game Informer's own Kyle Hilliard. Kyle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I was looking to see what was last week's episode. It's like 3.5 hours. And I was like, oh, it was all the Nintendo stuff.
It was a lot of Nintendo stuff. That should have been the title of that episode. All the Nintendo stuff.
It was a lot of Nintendo stuff recently.
Yeah. So, how are you doing, man?
Doing good. Yeah. You know, playing Nintendo games, playing Luigi's Mansion, Monkey Ball,
trucking along.
Mostly Elden Ring, though. For being honest.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring lately.
Hey, I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, I'm about 12 hours deep now into my new playthrough.
Getting into it. More than last
about
time?
100 hours from Shadow of the Erd Tree.
Depends on how you sprint through it. I don't know. You could get there a lot quicker if you want.
But I'm about to be away from my PS5 for a week, so I don't know how much time I'll have with it over the next, even the month of July is going to be rough for me, which, by the way, leads into this programming note that I want to give. There will be some pre-recorded episodes throughout the month of July. I don't plan on skipping any weeks, but next week I'm going to be on vacation visiting my family in Pennsylvania, therefore away from all my recording equipment for that entire week. Then the week after that, I will be in California on assignment, and then I should have one normal week after that, and then the final week of July, it is extremely likely that I will be on the other side of an ocean. So I will once again need to pre-record something there. As always, I will do my best to keep everyone in the loop. And then, of course, housekeeping, reminder that you can join the free All Things Nintendo Patreon page, which gives you the easiest access to all things Nintendo. It's the best way to interact with the show and get the latest info on the podcast outside of just listening to the show. You can also submit questions, topic suggestions, or rants of any kind. Email me directly at brian@allthingsnintendo.com or just go to that Patreon page. And then finally, be sure to check out my new YouTube channel where I'm posting more edited clips with some trailers embedded. And I'm also posting full episodes in video form there. Having a pretty good time doing that. I'm also trying to push to get this new channel to 500 subscribers, as that is the most important early milestone for a YouTube channel, or so I hear. I don't know. I'm new to this.
Supposedly, yeah.
Supposedly. That's what everybody tells you, but I think everybody's also kind of guessing.
I think it does let you pick your name and stuff like that. There are some little extras that come once you hit that.
That would be nice, because every time anybody searches All Things Nintendo on YouTube, it actually brings them to the Game Informer shows page, because there's 60 or so episodes up there from all my time running All Things Nintendo under the Game Informer umbrella. And now my new channel, when you search All Things Nintendo, it doesn't have the SEO that channel has. So it'd be nice if I could choose my URL or something. But right now, it's just at Brian P. Shea is my YouTube channel. Soon, hopefully. Anyway, let's get to the news. Anything would be a dry week compared to last week, Kyle. But before we jump into the news, what was your biggest winner out of the Nintendo Direct last week?
Oh, Zelda. Zelda where you play as Zelda. Just a new Zelda. I just didn't expect a new Zelda anytime soon, really. I had suspected that we would get a 2D Zelda, right? It's not like we're all in on Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. That's not the sole future for Zelda. But I just didn't expect to see another original 2D Zelda so quickly. Mm-hmm. And I obviously didn't expect it to star Zelda, so that was super exciting and fun. And then probably Metroid second place. Just the chance to see Metroid was very exciting.
Yeah, I think it's between those two for most people, right? Maybe somebody's really excited for Super Mario Party Jamboree. That's what it's called. Yeah,
and it's weird that it has a question mark in the title. Yeah,
but there's some other ones that were pretty cool announcements. Mario and Luigi Brothership.
Very excited for that. Yeah, I like Mario and Luigi a lot.
So there's a lot to choose from, but I think that for most people, it's going to be either Zelda or Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And but one of my sleeper picks for favorite announcements in the Nintendo Direct was Donkey Kong Country Returns HD.
Yeah, that's one of those when it's in front of me, I'm gonna play the hell out of it and be very excited to revisit that game, because I played the hell out of it when it came out on Wii. but haven't touched it since then. I didn't play the 3DS one really, so I'm excited to have it on Switch.
Well, the nice thing about the 3DS version is it adds not only the ability to like do the game without motion controls, which was my big complaint with the Wii version, because like if I'm not mistaken, there was no way to play that game without motion controls, even though you had your controller sideways. I mean, maybe I I think my
I
guess.
played with a nunchuck and a Wii,
Okay,
but you still had. You're right. You
you
still
had to
had
shake
motion
to like
control.
roll and everything, right?
Yeah, which it was fine. I didn't hate that or anything, but I understand I understand having frustration with it for sure.
Like I much prefer Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze for that very reason. Like I mean, I'm sure there's also some design conventions that maybe Retro learned in making their second Donkey Kong Country game, but still, like Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, I'm very excited for because it's going to remove the necessity for motion controls, which the 3DS version also did in fairness, but it's also going to provide all of the bonus content that was present in the 3DS version in a console version. And also,
Yeah.
they redid like the character models and everything. I don't know if you saw that side by side, but it was it's pretty stark that like, oh, that's what those character models looked like back on Wii.
Right. Yeah. I haven't looked at them side by side, but I can imagine that it's like one of those things. It's like, oh, this is what it looked like in my memory. It's like, nah,
Yeah.
give it another look.
But that's actually our first news item this week, Kyle. According to the store listing on the Nintendo eShop, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which, by the way, remember, it's a remaster of a 2010 Wii game, was going to cost $60. How does that strike you?
Bad. I mean, not good. It's a port of a 10-year-old, 15-year-old game.
Yeah, it'll be 15 years old by the time it comes out.
And yeah, Metroid Prime Remastered was cheaper, right?
Well, here, I dove into what these ports have cost in the past. Skyward Sword HD and Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe were two other Wii ports that recently came to Switch. They were $60 when they came. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which came out on Wii U in 2014, also $60. And then, yes, I saw over on NintendoLife.com Metroid Prime Remaster, which, by the way, arguably one of the best remasters on the entire Switch platform, just $40. And I know it's a GameCube remaster and not a Wii remaster, but like at this point, is there really that big of a difference?
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo pricing is always going to be frustrating, but
yeah,
I don't know. What are you
like,
going to do?
We always point out like trying to analyze like Nintendo's strategies is like a strange and impossible exercise.
Well, I mean, that's a strategy that I understand. Like, yeah, just charge the full price for the game and never drop the price. Like they've established a level. They've established an expectation that Nintendo games are always going to be expensive, right?
Hey
like,
man, I think I saw Tears of the Kingdom drop to like $62 for 1 week.
Like Nintendo games are just always going to be premium. It's like Apple products or something. You know what I mean? Like it's going to cost a certain amount, and that is a specific strategy that is paying off for them. But from a consumer's perspective, it's like it's annoying. I don't want to pay that much for games that I love but have already played. You know?
Yeah. It's weird though because Nintendo has one of the better wish list functionalities on its eShop. Like for all the things that it is behind on in like its storefront and in its online functionality, it has a very good wish list system.
Yeah, it's good.
It'll email you when your games are on sale. Like I all these eShop gems that we do on the show, I add them to my wish list, and then when they go on sale, I'll usually pick them up. It doesn't really apply for the first party games, and it's like if it does, it's like this $40 game is now like $37.
Yeah, but it also, I mean, like I said, it's a smart strategy because it's like when a new Nintendo game comes out that you're excited about, or if let's say you're like mostly excited about it, right? Like you're probably just gonna buy it because you're like, well, I mean, there's no point in waiting. It's not like there's gonna be a sale. I mean, like
I was waiting so long for Pikmin 3 on Switch to come on sale that Pikmin 4 came out.
and you're still gonna keep waiting, dude. I mean, I hate to break it to you.
I think it was a sale where it was like $20 off. I think Pikmin 3, if I'm not mistaken, was also like a $60 release. And then I think it was down to $40. And I was like, oh, that's really good for a Nintendo sale.
Yeah.
Also acknowledging that it's like a 10-year-old game.
Yeah. It's a bummer.
Yeah. But either way, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is still a game I'm very much looking forward to. It was always
I'll
weird
be part
to
of
me.
the problem when it comes out, for sure. Like,
It was just always weird to me that we brought Tropical Freeze over, which I understand, I guess. It was a Wii U game, and not a lot of people played Wii U games relative to Switch and Wii. So I guess I get it from that perspective, but it was also strange that like, oh, this we put Tropical Freeze on like right when the Switch came out, and the game that predated it and also was not like a bad game, it's still a very good game, didn't ever come to Switch until like, the absolute last minute for this console. Like we
Yeah,
all are
yeah.
pretty much in agreement that 2024 is going to be the last full year that the Switch is Nintendo's flagship system. And this comes out January 16th, 2025. So we're
Cutting
pushing it
close.
right to the limit here.
Yeah.
But Kyle, I know a game that you're pretty excited about. Epic Mickey Rebrushed.
Yeah, yeah. Does it have a release date now or something? Is that the
It
big thing?
does. So we
Okay,
not only
great.
got a release date, but also a collector's edition. And this collector's edition is going to cost $200, but man, is there some cool stuff in there. So it includes a pretty awesome looking statue of Mickey. I don't know how I feel about keychains, but an Oswald keychain.
I would like
Uh,
to swap those, honestly. I'd rather have an Oswald statue.
really?
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, have
Genuinely.
you seen this collector's edition?
Let me look it up while you're
The
talking.
statue is pretty awesome. I will say one thing about the statue is incredible. The keychain, take it or leave it. The steelbook is completely unremarkable. It is the exact same art as the standard box art. It's just a steelbook.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: they gave you a vintage display sign with just the most awesome Mickey art that I've seen in a long time, and it's like, why couldn't that have been the steelbook?
Yeah. I mean, this game, the thing about this game, Epic Mickey, from the beginning, from its reveal on the cover of Game Informer magazine,
That's right.
which marked a whole new generation for Game Informer. It was before you and I's time, but
Yeah, but that was the first Game Informer issue that like had our like current style of cover story, where we have
yeah,
like a big reveal or a big announcement or some deep in-depth thing about a game, and
but
like also like these minimalist covers where there's not a whole lot of text all over it.
yeah, and what a great way to kick off that style, which is like to say, Epic Mickey's style has always been much cooler than the actual game. Like the concept, the look of it, the art, the concept art has always been more compelling than the actual game ultimately ended up becoming. So this is cool to look at all this stuff. Like that is a cool statue and it is a cool steel book and that kind of thing for
The
sure.
steelbook, the steelbook's the thing on the left that you're looking at
Yeah,
right
but
there.
the
The
art, the art
sign,
is
I think, is the
cool.
cool thing.
Yeah, I mean it's all cool because like that the art direction on that
Yeah.
whole thing is cool. But yeah, I'm always I played it on Wii excitedly. Like it was like I bought it when it came out, but I never finished it because it wasn't a great game. Like it's hard to play, but like the context of it within sort of Disney, I've always loved because it's like historically relevant. It's like about the animation history of Mickey. It is what brought Oswald back into the Disney circle. Like they made a deal to bring him back. I forget exactly what they did, but they like gave up something in order to allow Oswald to become a Disney character again.
Oh,
And
weird.
like I love that sort of history of the game. And like when I went to Disney World for the first time last year, and you know, if you go to Disney, like part of the process is like it's fun, you pick out ears, right? Everyone wears ears and it's fun to find some ears that you want. And I immediately gravitated towards the Oswald ears. And
Really?
I was wearing Oswald ears the whole trip. And it made all the
Eating
like
wedgies and pushing your face into the toilets.
no, it made all the the Disney files who work there and the mascots and stuff were like, hey, Oswald, a little hipster guy over here, you know, and it's like I appreciate that. I like the history of Disney as it pertains to Epic Mickey, and I'm hopeful that like this re-release makes it more playable and more fun.
Is that your best interactions you've ever had with the mascots at Disney?
Yeah, I was taking pictures with some of the Incredibles with my daughter, and because I had been boring her to death about the history of Oswald and why it's related to video games, and the mascot was doing this to me, like, oh, you got the Oswald ears, right? And my daughter was like, oh yeah, because like he was in the video game and stuff, and Mr. Incredible was like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like they're not talking, they're just nodding and
Yeah.
pointing. But it was like fun. It was like, yeah, we're a pair of Oswald hipsters, you and me.
I've never done the ears. Like my most recent time at Disney was last year. I went to Disneyland for the first time because I grew up on the East Coast and I was born just outside of Orlando. So like, I grew up going to Disney World. And the last time I was at Disney World was 2019. And I witnessed the most charismatic Goofy in the history of the world. I don't know. He stormed out of like their little like door that they come out of and immediately drew everybody's attention with like his little like trot that he did, and like he spun around and like I've never seen a flock of kids just storm somebody like I saw that. Like it could have
Oh,
been
that's great.
LeBron James walking in and you would not have seen the excitement that everybody had with this Goofy. Like goodness gracious. But
That's why
yeah,
Disney's fun, man.
it is. It really is. Like I'm excited to go back. I'm actually going back in a couple weeks here to Disneyland.
Yeah, hey, me too. Are we gonna be there at the same time
I don't
in
think
August?
so.
Or like
No, I'm going in July.
Okay.
We were gonna hang out together. But,
Oh, no.
sorry. But anyway, yeah, so the release date for Epic Mickey Rebrushed is September 24th. Also, another question for you, since you brought up the Game Informer covers and how excited this one got for you. What was the Game Informer cover, I guess even before you worked there, that you were like reading about and you were like, oh my God, I can't wait for this game? Was it Epic Mickey?
Oh, interesting. No, I mean, there was the
I
Arkham cover. That was like I inhaled that one because I'm such a Batman fan.
that
The
was the one for me.
Yeah, the Brutal Legend cover was like
Mm.
one I remember working at GameStop and that one came in and it was like from the makers of Psychonauts. And I was like, I was playing in a metal band at the time. Like that was like, oh my God, the people who made Psychonauts are making this game for me. Thank you guys so much.
I never
But
played
yeah,
that, even though like I
love
love
Brutal Legend.
rock and I love metal and like I've never played Brutal Legend.
It's
Jack
cool. It's
Black's a
good.
cool guy.
But yeah, I remember reading Brian Vor's Batman Arkham Asylum story and being like, this sounds incredible and there's no way it will live up to this. And then somehow, frankly, it did. Like it was as good as the cover story sort of promised it to be, which is wild.
So I remember being a senior in college when that cover story came to my apartment's doorstep and being like, "Oh, there's a Batman game? That they usually suck." And then I
Yeah,
read the
exactly.
cover
Same.
story and I was like, it was one of those situations where I was like, I hope I don't die before this game comes out because I really want to play this game.
Yeah, I've had that thought about things, I suppose. Yeah.
Like I just thought like there's no way this game will ever come out. Now we have, 4 of them
Yeah.
plus
And a new VR one coming soon.
a Suicide Squad game that we don't talk about.
I was thinking about that game this morning and how
I deleted it off my PlayStation last night.
Oh, poor Suicide Squad. I beat that game. I played it. Like I was rooting for it, man. Oh well.
I was rooting for it as well. I was like, oh, there's some cool stuff here when I played it for a preview the week of the Game Awards last year, and then
Yeah.
I was like, man, these systems, man.
I couldn't write about it because I just got in as a fan. Like I just used my personal email address. I was in that beta and I played it, and I was like, this feels pretty cool. Like this is I'm flying around here. But yeah, by the end of that game, I was bummed.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to get into it too much, but my tweet that I posted about it was like, there's a good game. There's like a really, really good game hidden underneath just a bunch of crap
Yeah.
in this Suicide Squad game. But back to Epic Mickey Rebrushed. Like I said, comes out September 24th. And I think a lot of people overlook the fact that this game was made by Warren Spector.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't. I remember he came to the offices to show off Epic Mickey 2 once, and that's like a very memorable visit to meet Warren Spector, and we had lunch.
Yeah.
He was like playing music for us. I remember he pulled up like the NES DuckTales theme on his laptop, and it was like, this song's awesome, just talking about Disney stuff. So yeah, but Warren Spector, yeah, creator of Deus Ex and games like that. He's I don't know what he's
on
doing.
System Shock, Thief,
Yeah,
Ultima.
what is he doing these days? Actually, I don't know. Is he still?
He was involved with this announcement. They had him on the trailer talking about the Epic Mickey. I know for a while, didn't he? Wasn't he the head of the studio that did Where's My Water? I mean, that was like 10 years ago. But
yeah, like he was. He like worked for Disney for quite a long time. Yeah. I don't know what he's up to these days, but it looks like he's mostly teaching and stuff, which is cool.
It was weird. I was like listening to a podcast, and I know this name is going to get a lot of people on different sides of the political spectrum very a reaction, we'll say. But I was listening to a podcast on NPR, and it had Anthony Fauci on it, and you're like, "Oh, you left government? What are you up to?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm teaching some classes at Georgetown." I'm like, "Could you imagine like walking into a class and like he's just your professor?" That's how I would feel like
Pretty
Warren
cool.
Spector, like just teaching classes. Like, oh, the guy who created Deus Ex is now my teacher.
That'd be awesome. That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
Here's an announcement that I didn't expect to feel as excited for as I am. Atari 50, the anniversary celebration, which on this podcast I've called perhaps the greatest classic games compilation ever assembled, just because the care that Digital Eclipse put into it. It's getting an expanded edition. So Digital Eclipse also worked on Mega Man Legacy Collection, TMNT Cowabunga Collection, and Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. They announced that Atari 50, the Anniversary Celebration Expanded Edition, it's not exactly the catchiest name at this point, 39 new games to the already massive collection. And then not only that, it's also going to add 2 new timelines, because if you play the game, like there's different timelines you can explore of like, oh, this happened, then this happened. And then as you do like these history lessons of sorts, it's just like a really big interactive museum basically. But like, it's like, oh, here's like when they invented Pong, and then you can go play Pong and play like different things. So the first timeline is the wider world of Atari, which adds 19 playable games and 8 video segments on topics like Breakout and Berserk. And then the second timeline is the first console war, which includes 20 games and 6 video segments focused on the Atari 2600 and Intellivision, which, by the way, remember they just acquired that.
Yeah, all right, okay.
So it also is going to feature rare Atari 2600 and 5200 prototypes. And you can buy it standalone if you don't already own Atari 50 for $40. There's also, for some reason, Switch is getting the only collector's edition. It's $50. It includes, it's very funny collection.
Yeah.
A replica of Al Alcorn, who was the creator of Pong, his business card.
I like it.
Atari 2600 art cards, miniature arcade marquee signs for Asteroid, Breakout, and Berserk. Which, by the way, I'm excited for the Berserk stuff because my dad and I would have tournaments on Berserk just against like I would play, and then he would come home from work and I'd be like, hey, I beat your score on Berserk, and he would like quickly put all of his work stuff down and try to beat my score.
That's good. That's cool.
So I have a very, very fond memories of that. So when Atari like acquired the rights to that, I'm like, yeah, come on, man, do some more stuff with this because I need some more Berserk in my life. Unfortunately, they did the Berserk Recharged, which I was not particularly fond of, but going back to the classic Berserk with something like Atari 50, I'm all in for.
I've ever played Berserk.
It's super fun. It's just like a run and gun through like a like kind of like different corridors, and like robots are chasing you and you have to shoot them and get to the next screen. If you take too long, a giant menacing smiley face starts bouncing around that you can't kill, and it'll kill you if it touches you. So, yeah, so it just encourages you to move forward. It's a fun game. So you can also buy the expanded edition as a DLC upgrade if you already own Atari 50. But Atari hasn't announced how much the DLC version will cost. So you haven't checked out Berserk, but have you checked out Atari 50?
Not much, no. You know what? I shouldn't even say that. Not at all. I have not played Atari 50, even though I know I should, and everyone who's played it really sings its praises.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you're in my camp where my nostalgia, the earliest my like gaming nostalgia goes back to is NES. Like I played NES. That was the first thing that I did. I played NES at my aunt and uncle's houses.
Yeah.
And I didn't really ever play Atari. Like Atari was the system that my dad played. And I only went back and played some of these Atari games after the fact. But like NES and SNES were like the two that I really played in like my formative childhood years of like gaming.
Yeah. Same.
So I don't know. Like when I went back, I was like, okay, this is kind of like a cool history lesson of like these games that I've heard about but haven't really spent much time with, and it was cool to play those. But like, do you think you'll check this out finally when it comes out, the expanded edition?
I mean, it's not really like extra incentive to check it out beyond what incentive I already have that's there, if that makes sense, right? Like I was as likely to check out Atari 50 now as I am after this announcement, which is to say I know I should and I want to.
Well, it comes out October 25th with the expanded edition, so the fall calendar is starting to fill up a little bit.
Starting to heat up.
Yeah. And here's an announcement that I don't know yet if it's going to come to a Nintendo platform, but it would be pretty weird if it didn't. Platonic Friends, who's the publishing arm of the ukulele developers, and Blossom Tales developer Castle Pixel, which I'm very fond of the Blossom Tales games. They've announced Cattle Country, which
Oh,
on
right. Yes.
GameInformer.com we're calling Stardew Valley meets Wild West. And it was revealed by IGN earlier this week. And it looks like you can expect ranching, treasure hunting, and like the social simulation stuff that you'd expect from Stardew Valley. And by the way, the trailer seems to be narrated by Roger Clark, aka Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption
Yeah.
2.
They knew what
So
they were doing there. Yeah.
perfect fit. There's no release date right now, and it looks like it's only listed for PC. So, one, are you a Stardew Valley guy? And two, I know you're a Zelda guy. Did you ever play the Blossom Tales games?
Not a Stardew Valley guy. No, I never played Blossom Tales. No.
I think the first one actually is a little bit better. They're both pretty heavy-handed in like taking inspiration from A Link to the Past. The first one maybe
There
a
are no
little bit.
complaints from me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the first one a little bit more. The second one maybe had a bit more. I don't know, maybe less novelty, but a little bit more refinement. But I don't know, like the first one I was like, oh, this is like A Link to the Past, awesome. And the second one I was like, oh, this is like that game that was like A Link to the Past. I was never really a Stardew Valley guy either. I always wanted to try it, and I've started up a couple of runs on it, and then I just kind of fell off.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll have to
I
keep
live
an
in
eye
a
out.
Stardew Valley obsessed house.
Oh yeah.
I'm not one of the obsessees.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm really good friends with Margaret over at Game Informer, and she is just like every time I ask her what she's playing, she's like, "Oh, Stardew Valley still." And
Yeah.
it's like I need to look. I don't know what platform she's playing on. If it's Switch, though, I need to look and see like what her hour count
hours.
is.
Yeah. Right.
There are some people that I look and it's like played 1,000 hours or more on certain games, and I'm like, oh my god! Like, there's somebody who's put over 1,000 hours somebody I know very well who's put over 1,000 hours into ARMS.
Okay.
And somebody you know as well. I'll tell you offline.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out for Cattle Country news in the coming months. But in lieu of any of Concerned Apes Haunted Chocolatier news, this might be something that can fill that void, I guess.
Yeah, no, yeah, Haunted Chocolatier. I wonder, yeah, that's a game that I bet will just suddenly be out one day. Not anytime soon or anything.
We've been saying that about Hollow Knight Silk Song as well.
Well, I still feel that way. Hollow Knight, I think, is just going to be out. You know, I'm not saying it's coming out tomorrow. I'm saying that it's not going to be like we get a trailer that's like, and expect this game to be released in 3 months. You know, I don't think that's what it's going to be. You know, I think one day we're going to live in a pre-Haunted Chocolatier world and we're going to live in a post-Haunted Chocolatier world. You know?
Hey, that would be nice because that game looks, from what little we've seen of it, looks pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, that guy seems to be able to make a pretty decent game, from what I understand.
Yeah, yeah.
So finally, Kyle, we got some news out of Smile Fest. You know what Smile Fest is?
No, it sounds made up.
It's a dental convention. No, it's the manufacturer or toy manufacturer Good Smiles Toy Expo. So this is the company that creates Nendoroids and Figma figures. So Nendoroids are like the chibi style figures, and the Figmas are kind of the more anatomically correct figures. And both are pretty premium, very expressive, extremely posable. And I saw this over on NintendoLife.com. So first up, we have a Bulborb from the Pikmin series. That's a Nendoroid. Then we have a Kirby Cafe Nendoroid, as well as a Waddle Dee Cafe Nendoroid. And then there's the one that I was most tempted by, the Shadow the Hedgehog Nendoroid. So excited for all those. And then over on the Figma side, we got to look at the prototype of a Tears of the Kingdom Princess Zelda figure. Then we also got our first full color look at the Tears of the Kingdom Ganondorf, because we've seen the prototype in the past, but the full color Ganondorf looks really sick.
Is there a Tears of the Kingdom Link already?
He's available for pre-order right now.
Okay. I was like, wow, you guys are doing this Link and Ganon first, but okay.
Yeah, they started with Link, and then they announced Ganondorf. Like, so they announced Link, right? Then they had it. They're like, oh, and we also have this prototype of Ganondorf, and it's just like, you know, kind of like the clay model.
Yeah.
And then they now showed the full color Ganondorf, and they're like, oh, by the way, we have this prototype of Zelda as well that we're working on.
Cool.
So I don't know. Are any of these kind of tempting you at all?
The Zelda one maybe. But yeah, I'm not a big like figure collector. Depends. Sometimes I am, but yeah, of among those, I would love like a nice Tears of the Kingdom Zelda statue. That'd be cool.
Back when we had our office at Game Informer, I got into the habit of collecting some of these Figmas and Nendoroids. I had a ton. I mean, I still do. They're right over my shoulder. Ton of Overwatch ones. I got a lot of the Persona 5 ones. All the Zelda ones, basically. Like I have a ton of Zelda ones. I haven't bought any in a long, long time. I'm really tempted by Shadow, Ganondorf, and Zelda, and they usually run anywhere between $50 and $110, depending on like how intricate they are, and they also usually will have different editions where it's like, oh, you can get the standard Tears of the Kingdom link for $60, I think, and it comes with these things. But if you want to really splurge, you can get the $120 version, and it's like, comes with like different items and different things that he does in Tears of the Kingdom, and it's like, maybe I'll get that one.
Yeah,
but like, yeah, I really want to get those three. The Shadow, Ganondorf, and Zelda ones are really, really calling my name. But I don't know. Like, it's also like, well, we don't have an office anymore, so we're all working from home, and it's like I can show it off when I have people over, but like it's not as fun to put up a new figure as it was when it's like, oh, people will see this every day when they walk past.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But Kyle, we're going to take
displays only for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't mind that, I guess. But like I don't know, it's more fun when other people can take it in.
Yeah.
But Kyle, we're going to take our first break, and when we return, we are going to review the Switch's 2 new releases. We will be right back. The news may have been a little light this week, but we received not one, but 2 semi-big name Switch exclusives. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD and Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. And wouldn't you know it, Kyle, you reviewed one and I reviewed the other for Game Informer.
Hey, look at that.
So how about we lead off with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, because I feel like he's always come in second. So plus he's one of the most recognizable faces of Nintendo, so I guess we should start there.
Yeah, so Luigi's Mansion 2, it's funny, you asked me if I wanted to review it, and I was kind of like, yeah, I do, because I have actually never beaten a Luigi's Mansion game. It's always been a series I just dabble with. So I was excited to have like an excuse to actually like play through a Luigi's Mansion. And I mean, there's a lot I like about it. Like the basic mechanic of Luigi's Mansion, where you're sort of roaming around a creepy house and vacuuming up ghosts and cobwebs and money and stuff like that. Like that's like it's like a very Nintendo thing. It's like where they figured out this very simple, fun thing, and then they sort of crafted a game around it and a character, and found a character that fit with it really well. So like that part of it's good. But I will say I don't really feel like a Luigi's Mansion convert after playing it. I'm not like now like a huge fan of the franchise. Like it was a charming game that I enjoyed playing, but it was kind of like it's fine. Like it's kind of on the second tier of Nintendo franchises for me at this point. And then the other sort of hang up with it is that maybe not because, but it is a port of a 3DS game. And as a result, like the pacing is really like weird almost, like where it stops you really frequently. And I think the idea was like on 3DS, they're like, yeah, this will be great for a handheld system. You're not going to be playing for long chunks at a time. And obviously you can still play this handheld, but I just often I was making my way through a mansion. I found the thing I was supposed to find. And then I was like, oh, great. I would like to explore some more and look around some more. But you get pulled out of the level. And it's like, okay, we did the thing we came to do. Let's get out of here. And I was like, well, okay. And then I have to click through dialogue just to get back to the level. And it felt like these sort of unnecessary stops. Like the pacing just felt sort of stilted as a result.
When you say that, it reminds me of like when you go into like a cave or something in Elden Ring, not to bring it back to Elden Ring again.
Yeah.
And like, you beat like the great enemy or the big bad in the cave. And it's like, there's that little thing that appears. It's like, do you want to return to the entrance? And I'm never doing that right away, because I'm like, oh, there might be like a treasure chest or something like just a little bit further down. Usually there is. So it's like I maybe they didn't design it in that way, but like, yeah, you always kind of want to poke around a little bit after you. Look at Zelda. Like you beat a boss in Zelda, and like a heart piece appears. Yeah, and it's like you want to go grab that. You don't want to immediately go back. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but and it's like if you can imagine like that style of game, like like Elden Ring, like you beat that boss and it just immediately pulls you out. Like you don't have a choice, and it's just a little annoying. It wasn't like a deal breaker or anything like that, but it's okay. I gave it a 7.75 in my Game Informer review. It's a solid Nintendo game, but it's not like a thank God this is finally on Switch, the lost Luigi's Mansion. It's like it's a totally acceptable Luigi's Mansion. If you want to play Luigi's Mansion, if you're curious about the franchise, 3 is probably still your best bet. I think that's probably the better game. I say that
I enjoyed 3. I reviewed 3 for us.
Okay, see, I haven't played a ton of 3, so I don't want to speak with too much conviction. But Luigi's Mansion 2 is cool, and I'm glad exists. I'm glad it got ported. I'm guessing at this point we're never going to get the original game on Switch, but it would be nice if they did like a Pikmin style thing where they just sort of put them all on Switch, so you could have access to all the Pikmin games on one console. Like, it would be nice if they do that with Luigi's Mansion. But yeah, it's good. It's fine, Brian. It's a fine game.
I don't know why it hasn't come to Switch. They remade the original one for 3DS.
Yeah.
And by the way, I gave Luigi's Mansion 3 an 8.5 out of 10 back when it came out in 2019. I had a really good time with that one. There's some stuff I didn't particularly love about it, but like you said that you had never beaten a Luigi's Mansion game before this, but you've played Luigi's Mansion 3, right?
Yeah, 1 and 3, and even 2 at a little bit here and there, but yeah.
So what does 3 do better than 2, if you can even recall, like if you can differentiate them in your brain at this point?
It's tough, man. I don't know. I don't remember the specifics, but I mean, it does have co-op, which is nice. Like 3 has decent co-op, 2 doesn't have co-op, but it does have the Scare Tower, which is like the online mode,
yeah,
which is pretty fun.
Scare Scraper, right?
Scare Scraper, thank you. Yeah, when I say Scare Tower. Like it's pretty cool. Like it's nice. Me and Charles played it together. I also had like sometimes when you're reviewing a game, the publisher developer will set up like review sessions where you can get online with a couple people to play, and we did that with Luigi's Mansion. And like I usually fully ignored those kinds of secondary modes. Like that's usually if I'm playing a game like this, I'm like, I don't want to play multiplayer. But it's basically becomes like a cooperative Luigi's Mansion high speed thing, and also your progress feeds into your single player game as well, which is nice. So like you collect money playing multiplayer that you use to like upgrade your stuff, which is nice. So it's like it doesn't feel like you've left the single player game to go waste your time in multiplayer, or vice versa if you're more committed to the multiplayer side of things. Like it all feeds into one place, which is nice. And I think Luigi's Mansion 3 has like an online mode like that, doesn't it?
It does. It has Scare Scraper as well.
But yeah, I would imagine if in my memory, it's like I think it plays a little better. I think the environments are a little more interesting to explore. It's like a bigger scale. It looks better. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD looks fine, but it's just fine. It's like, especially after playing Metroid Prime Remastered and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, which those games looked like incredible and felt like significant overhauls. That's not the case here. This just looks like a port of a solid, pretty port of a 3DS game.
And it doesn't sound like they added a whole lot of content to this. Like I don't know.
I don't think they added any, as far as I know.
It's so strange, Nintendo's approach to doing these ports and remasters. It's like sometimes they go just all out, like Skyward Sword HD. It's like, oh, we added a whole new control scheme if you don't want to like use motion controls.
Yeah.
And then like Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe added like a whole new like epilogue to the entire story. And then this, it's like, oh well, we're just gonna bring it, and it's all $60.
The controls have been updated. They're porting it from a 3DS game. You can play without motion controls if you want. So they had like the sort of Skyward Sword approach, I guess you could say. But yeah, there's, as far as I know, and I could be mistaken, as far as I know, there's no added content for this version. I think it is just a straight port of the 3DS game.
Okay. And for those who are not, they're like, wait, there's no Luigi's Mansion 2 on 3DS. It was called Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. They changed the name for some reason, which I guess makes sense, but like, because they went back to Luigi's Mansion numbering with 3.
Yeah, I mean, if they called it Dark Moon HD, I think some people might have assumed it's a brand new game. Also, I guess it was called 2 outside of America, which is weird. I don't know why they never called it 2 over here, but
Like even calling it Luigi's Mansion 2 : Dark Moon would make
Yeah,
more
I know.
sense.
I don't tell you, man.
Yeah, it looks like it was just Japan, Australia, and Europe. It was known as Luigi's Mansion 2.
Okay. Yes. It's weird.
Oddly
All right.
enough.
Yeah. Who knows why
But
those
yeah,
decisions
so
were made?
it sounds like here is your recommendation. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. So, if you have never played a Luigi's Mansion game and you are looking to play a Luigi's Mansion title on Switch, you would say go with 3.
I think so. Yeah. I think you should check out 3.
However, if you've played 3 and you thought it was a good game and you want more of that, then this seems like a perfectly fine way to get more of that.
You nailed it, man. You summed it up.
All right. Well, anything else we need to talk about with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD?
No. Yeah. Solid game. It's just fine. It's always it's like it's sort of a boring review, but it's like, yeah, it's fine.
Well, if you want to play that fine game, it is available now on Switch. Or you can go back and dust off your 3DS and go find the game that came out in 2013.
Yeah, that's an option.
Yeah, it's always an option. For me, I reviewed Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, and it's a pretty good game. I thoroughly enjoyed a lot of my time with this title. It has really 2 main portions. So, I mean, if you don't know what Super Monkey Ball is, basically you're a monkey in a ball, and you roll around these levels almost like Marble Blast, where you're rolling a ball through a stage, trying to like get to the goal, and there's collectibles along the way. In this case, bananas, and there's adventure mode, which is like kind of like the story mode, like you're just playing through like these levels, kind of like platforming obstacle courses, and there's 200 all new levels, which is just ridiculous because this is the first all new Super Monkey Ball game in a decade. The last one was, I think, a mobile game that came out in 2014, and then before that, I think the last console game was like 2010. So it's been a minute since we've gotten like an actual proper all new Monkey Ball game. And ever since then, it's been like, God, what was it? Banana Blitz HD, which was a Wii remaster. And then we got Banana Mania, which was a remake of Super Monkey Ball 1, 2, and 3. It was the first few Super Monkey Ball games,
right,
from like the GameCube era on Switch. So this is an all new one of those. They, adventure mode, 200 new levels. They did all new physics, which feel great, by the way, most of the time. And then camera that is less of a pain to control. And then, the levels themselves, early on, I had a better time than later because like they ramp up the difficulty eventually. And it's like early on, there's optional objectives of like, oh, collect X number of bananas, or find the golden banana and get it, or reach the goal in a like you have 60 seconds for every level. And it's like reach the goal in under 10 seconds on this level, or under 25 seconds on this level. And some of them, like you have to like sequence break. Like you have to like, there's a new spin dash move that you have instead of jump. And you would have to like, find, oh, there's this lip that if I spin dash into it just right, it'll launch me up and I can just smash through the goal. And like I can beat this like 45-second level in 5 seconds because like I kind of skip like half the level. And those are when the game is at its best.
Yeah.
Later on, it's like these levels get so complex and so like, oh my God, like I am just like walking a tightrope to get to this goal. It kind of takes the experimentation out of it. And that's my favorite part of adventure mode. And it's like, yeah, there's a couple here and there, like later on where it's like, all right, well, like I could skip half of this level if I hit this lip just right, or this ramp or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but then like you have to still make it through this really challenging second half. And then I fall off inevitably. And then you have to start all the way back at the start. And it's like, well, it took me like 25 tries to hit that ramp just right to get to that middle section. Now I have to do it all over again. It kind of diminishes the fun of the experimentation. But overall, adventure mode's fun. There's also, because it gets so tough, I think this is actually worth shining a light on. There's helper functions, which give you different things, and it's either you turn them all on or you turn none of them on, and it makes it so you can't have a high score on the leaderboard, or you can't you don't get any like points for completing the level. So like everything you do in the game in adventure mode, you get points that are like your in-game currency to buy customization items. So it's like, oh, you completed this optional objective. You got 100, I don't know, banana points. I don't know what they call them. And then you can go buy like sunglasses for your character or whatever. And if you turn on the helper functions, you don't get any of those, but it really is helpful for some of these like really challenging ones. I used them pretty sparingly in my playthrough, but like some of them I was like, I just need to get through this level. I've been stuck on it for 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
So it adds a checkpoint halfway through the level. It adds an arrow guide, which like, you know, it's like almost like a racing game where it tells you like, okay, like you want to go like this way and then up here and then down here. So it's like you just follow that and like you just have to basically execute on it and like wait for like the platforms that are moving around. There's a ghost footage, so like you can see exactly how like a ghost player is going through it to complete it. And then rewind functionality. So if you fall off and you press like the Y button fast enough, you can actually rewind frame by frame to get to the point where like, oh, I messed up this one part. I want to.
But you have to elect to turn on all those options, right?
Yes, it's
like,
all or nothing with those.
Yeah.
But you know, you don't have to use the rewind function if you don't want to. Like mostly for me, it was the checkpoint that I really wanted to add whenever I got really stuck on it.
Yeah, that seems handy.
There's also battle modes, which is online for up to 16 players or local up to 4 players. So there's race, which, you know, it's just what it sounds like. You're racing through these levels. I believe I pointed it out to you before and on a previous episode of All Things Nintendo, where it has rubber banding, but it's not like the way that it does in Mario Kart, where it's like, oh, you're in last place, you get a blue shell or a star or something like that. It's just like you're in last place. The level is more built out and has fewer obstacles. Whereas like if you're in first place, the further up you are, like there's more gaps in the track that you can fall through. There's no like bumpers on the sides. There's like obstacles in the middle that'll like push you off.
Mm-hmm.
But there are power-ups as well. Like there's one that's like shoots like missiles at your enemies. There's one that makes it so like you have like almost like a bumper car like donut around you that like pushes people off. So that's a fun mode. I really like that. There's Baboom, which is basically like bomb tag. Like you start off and it's like, all right, you have 15 seconds and like people randomly have bombs attached to them and you have to tag somebody who doesn't have a bomb and hand it off. And then at the end of the round, like everybody with a bomb explodes and everybody who doesn't gets points. And then like whoever has the most points at the end wins. Goal Rush is another one that I really, really like, where it's like you're split into 2 even teams and you're just rolling downhill and you're going through these different goals. And, you know, if you go through a goal, you go back up to the hill, up to the top of the hill. So you can choose, all right, well, the ones up front are like 10 points. So you can go through those if you want, or you can like risk it. And the further down you go, the harder the goals are to get, but also they're worth more.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's like, oh, I really want to go for that 60-point goal. And if I get, and like, so that way, like, but if you miss it, like you go off and you don't get any points for that roll. And like you wasted all this time. And then not only that, but like at the end of it, whatever team went through the goal last, it's that team's color. And then it tallies up at the end. Like, okay, well, there are 10 goals that are red and 8 goals that are blue. So red gets 100 points and blue gets 80 points bonus on top of all the other points they accumulated. So it's really strategic in that way. And it's fun. I don't know. I really liked that one a lot. That might've been my favorite overall of the battle modes. Then there's Banana Hunt, which you're just, you know, going around an open arena, collecting as many bananas as you can. And then Robot Smash, which, I don't know, maybe it was my least favorite of the battle modes, where it's just like a bunch of robots spawn in these arenas and you're split into 2 teams and you just have to like ram into them as hard as you can and deal damage. And like that's with a spin dash and like the booster, like the little boost pads like you see in Mario Kart. Those come into handy because like you have to strategically propel yourself into these robots to deal the most damage that you can. But yeah, those were, I don't know, I enjoyed them. They were more than just like a fun diversion. Like I could see them being a destination mode, especially now that like I'm done with adventure mode and I don't really see myself going back to any of those like super punishingly difficult levels. Like I might go back and experiment with some of like the more friendly levels, like in those first like 3 worlds.
Yeah. I mean, Super Monkey Ball always, I mean, I've talked to you about this before, but like I haven't really played a Super Monkey Ball game beginning to end. And I've started this one and I've been enjoying it. But one of the reasons I've never finished one is because I do have the most fun at the beginning. Like once it gets very challenging very quickly to the point where it kind of stops being fun. And I still don't know if it will hit that point in this one, because I have been enjoying it so far. But I could see you. I could see me being like, all right, I finished that level. I'm not. I don't care about the high score. I'm good. I don't ever want to be in that world again.
Yeah, there were a few where I feel I'm not playing Elden Ring, but I feel like I'm playing Elden Ring right now.
Yeah.
Also, something that a lot of people kind of miss out on, like who aren't really like clued into the gaming world and like who develops what. This is the same development team as the Yakuza series,
Yeah.
RGG Studios.
Or I mean, more correctly, accurately, you should say the Yakuza games are developed by the Super Monkey Ball studio, right?
That's fair. Yes. Well, I mean, they've definitely become known for one of them.
Yes.
Also created by the same guy who, no longer with the studio.
Right, yeah,
he's off doing his own thing now. But yeah, the same guy created the Yakuza series as created Super Monkey Ball. So maybe that explains some of the more difficult stuff that happens later on in these games.
It could be. Yeah.
But that's available now exclusively on Switch. Kyle, we're going to take our final break of this episode. When we get back, we're going to do definitive ranking and touch on a few milestone anniversaries. We will be right back. We are back, and it's time for Definitive Ranking, a recurring segment where we take a Nintendo topic and give our own personal top 5 lists. Kyle, since I just reviewed Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble and last week gave us an announcement of an all-new Mario Party game, I want to get your top 5 party games. So it can be either franchises or individual games. It's your list, so you can do whatever you want with it. I can tell you that I went franchises if you want to go that route, but otherwise, all you.
Yeah, obviously number 5. I mean, do I even really need to say it? Obviously, it's South Park Chef's Love Shack. We all know it. We all played it. We all love it, and we definitely didn't. We definitely all owned that, and for some reason, never owned a copy of Mario Party. I don't know why that happened in my life. I can close down the sarcasm now. That was the one party game I had. It was like a family friend bought it for me for Christmas or something, where it's like they probably got it out of some discount bin. But it was a Mario Party inspired game where you did mini games and stuff, and it was South Park, and it was one of those I didn't play. I wouldn't say I played it a lot, but I mean I would boot it up because it's like this is one of my handful of N64 games I've beaten Ocarina of Time to death. I'll play some Chef's Love Shack. Oh my god, it would actually be weird to go back and revisit that game. I bet it's just awful. I bet it's like unplayable.
Hey, if you do that, I will join you for that episode of Replay.
We should do that. I would totally that would be funny.
Oh god, is that even would we even be able to play that on YouTube at this point? Because I'm sure it was pretty raunchy.
Yeah, it's got to be rough, probably. Yeah, you know what? I should dig it up sometime. That would be fun to revisit. I wonder if it's on GOG or something. That'd be crazy. So number 5, just to throw a wrench in there. Number 4, I actually spent I think a lot of people did this too. And there's what is a party game, what is a multiplayer game? There's certainly like multiplayer games that I played a lot more, but I just don't feel like they're party games. But Fusion Frenzy on Xbox, it wasn't.
I love Fusion Frenzy.
It wasn't even that like my friends and I would play the Fusion Frenzy, right? What it was, this is silly, but like we played so much Halo. And then I think it might have. Seems crazy in retrospect, but I feel like it might have been on the Halo disc. There was a demo for Fusion Frenzy, or I had it on the hard drive or something. For whatever reason, I didn't need to take. I don't remember swapping discs, but it was like funny because the Fusion Frenzy demo was just like a couple of mini games that you could kind of just like immediately jump into without worrying about like the larger game. So we would just play like, the one Fusion Frenzy game where you're like running up the spiral. And that would be like the cooldown after playing a million rounds of Halo. We would play like that one mini game.
And I looked it up and it does appear to have been on the Halo Combat Evolved disc.
Okay, that is purely why, because we were like, it's like, oh man, we've been playing Halo for hours. It's like, well, let's do something different, and then it would. Let's see. Number 3, Nintendo Land. I feel like you can.
Oh wow!
The game for the Wii U, kind of a funky, weird, underrated Nintendo party game. Like, there's a couple of great games on there. There's Mario Run, I think it's called. actually I might have the name wrong, where it's like you were just like chasing each other on this map, and then like the character with the gamepad would have the camera on them, so you could like see their face reacting on the TV screen as they were like running away. It's one of the reasons I don't think Nintendo Land would ever be ported to Switch or anything like that, because it's like it really was the game that used all the sort of elements of the Wii U console, like the microphone and the camera and stuff like that. I also like Nintendo Land because it had a bunch of different Nintendo franchises. Like there were a bunch of Metroid games, there were a bunch of Zelda games, there were a bunch of F-Zero games, there were a bunch of Mario games, and I like that sort of mashup, that kind of amusement park approach to Nintendo franchises.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is WarioWare Smooth Moves for me.
Okay.
Again, like I don't know, it's like, is it a party game or is it just like a multiplayer game? I don't know. It's semantics, but
There's some crossover.
yeah, and you had to beat the single player to access that, which I thought always was annoying.
Oh,
But
really? I don't remember that.
I could be wrong about that, but I feel like you had to play a lot of WarioWare to access the multiplayer mode.
Oh,
And then that was
interesting.
like a staple for a long time, was playing WarioWare Smooth Moves with friends, in like sort of the party situation.
On last week's episode, I talked about how I had a friend over and we were playing WarioWare Smooth Moves in the same college apartment that I read the Arkham Asylum
Cover story.
cover story from Game Informer.
Yeah.
And we had a few adult beverages, and it was the closest I'd ever come to just completely obliterating one of my Wii remotes, because like it slipped out of one of our hands and we just like watched in horror as it soared through the air.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, that was a problem before when that console came out. People probably forget. But yeah, WarioWare Smooth Moves is so good. I actually haven't played the multiplayer stuff with the new WarioWare in a party setting really yet. Like I
Yeah.
still want to do that because I bet it's like as fun. I bet it is comparable. But I'm just at a different point in my life where I'm not like in a dorm with people around.
You know what sucks? WarioWare
Getting
Smooth
older?
Moves
Oh,
came out almost 18 years ago.
is it really? Wow,
Yeah.
that's wild. And then number 1 is my franchise pick, which is Jackbox. It's just like everyone can play it. There's some game somewhere in that batch that's like going to appeal to everybody. If you have a phone, you can play. It's like
hmm
it's just a brilliant game that is consistently fun, and it also doesn't really feel unfair because it's less focused on like who's winning and more focused on like, let's make sure everyone's like laughing and having a good time. Like there's a score, but like it's so secondary to everything else, unlike like Mario Party, which wasn't on my personal list. I've never really enjoyed Mario Party. Is a game that feels like you're trying really hard to be strategic in a sort of whirlwind of chaos, to the point where like I rarely have fun, you because I'm not a particularly competitive person, and I feel like Mario Party kind of makes you competitive by design. But yeah, Jackbox I think is just the best party game. I just don't think you can do any better than Jackbox.
It's a solid choice. I mean, I believe the only entry on my list that overlaps.
Really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Really?
So,
Not WarioWare?
WarioWare and Super Smash Brothers are my 2 honorable mentions here.
Yeah, see, Smash Brothers doesn't. I wouldn't have. That would have been a number 1 if I thought of it as a party game. But yeah, I guess I don't. Yeah. Anyway,
My definition of a party game is just a game that you can like bust out and people can easily jump on, and just like, whether they're hardcore gamers or like somebody who's like, oh yeah, I played Switch a couple times, like they can just jump in and have a good time, even if like they're doing awful. Like on Super Smash Brothers, you could be like, yeah, you join my team. I've played like 600 hours of Super Smash Brothers. We'll still have a good time. We'll put the computer on. Like one of them is going to be on hard, one of them is going to be on easy, so you can have a punching bag as well.
yeah,
Or like you can team up like a really good player with a really bad player against another really good player and another really bad player, and have a good time. So that's kind of where I look at it. But because of like those caveats, I didn't put it on my list, even though I think it's a very, very good game.
right.
But we'll start there. Number 5, I'm going to put Mario Party, just because like I feel like a lot of people have had great multiplayer sessions playing Mario Party. It has party in the name. it's just a I don't know, it's a solid party game to bust out whenever you want to play some multiplayer with a group of friends. It doesn't matter how experienced they are at video games.
Right. I'm surprised it's number 5 for you. I just assumed it would be higher. You know, I didn't worry about not having a Mario Party on my list, you know, because I was like, I'm sure it'll be on Brian.
Number 4 for me, Overcooked.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah,
what a fun game. My parents play Overcooked. Like, we'll go over to I'm visiting my family next week, and I'm sure that at one point they'll be like, "Do you have Overcooked?" Because I'm bringing my Switch with me, and I am almost certain. I mean, almost all these games are ones that I will probably bust out at some point with my family over the course of the next week. So, Overcooked is my number 4. That, you know, just a really fun, frantic, working in the kitchen. I would want to say simulator, because it starts off like, okay, yeah, we have to serve these dishes as fast as possible, and then it turns into like, isn't it like the apocalypse has happened and now we have to
things are like, that gets really crazy in 2 in particular,
and the building is collapsing and we have to like throw the dish across the chasm, and I don't know, it's just like,
no, Overcooked good. That's a good answer. If in retrospect, if I had considered that like as a party game, it would have made my list for sure.
This is one I will not be playing when I visit my family because it requires a lot of plastic instruments to come with me. Rock Band.
Yeah. See, again, I didn't really think of it as a party game, but it totally could fit that for sure.
I've had Rock Band parties, Kyle. I've had it was, let's see, who was the most recent one? It was a lot of former Game Informer folks. Blake Hester, Ben Hansen, I think Alex Van Aken was at the most recent one. Suriel Vasquez came over.
Yeah.
Just this basement was just populated with former Game Informer editors, former and current Game Informer editors.
I've had Left 4 Dead parties. Would you consider Left 4 Dead a party game?
No, but that's weird. No.
Get out of here with that.
No, but I mean, Left 4 Dead's a very fun co-op game.
Yeah.
Number, what am I on? 2?
3.
Right?
Mario.
No, 3 was Rock Band.
You're right. Yeah. 2.
2, Jackbox Party Pack.
Oh,
like you said, anybody with a phone can jump on. Anybody can fire that up, have a good time. Lots of fun prompts and situations that people get put into. It was a real serious contender for number 1. But number 1 for me, this might be another one of those ones where you're like, oh, I never thought of that as a party game. I always thought of that as a multiplayer game. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yeah, I thought about it. It's like I feel like it's a racing game. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it could totally be a party game. You know, I mean, I bet people are gonna have a lot more fun with that than Mario Party.
So I had a party earlier this month, literally the first weekend of this month, and I had a bunch of people over, and I was like, okay, well, I have all these arcade 1-ups. People are gonna want to like play those. The one guy played a few matches of Street Fighter on the arcade 1-up. Another guy played some Mortal Kombat. Everybody was like, hey, you have Mario Kart 8, right? Can we play that? And then like 6 people were just trading the Joy-Cons around playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for like an hour and a half, and I was like, all right, well, I gotta go like entertain the other people. So
I mean, Mario Kart is you're it's always going to be a winner like 100% of the time. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's why it got my number 1 spot. I mean, I've had a lot of fun playing Jackbox Party Pack and those other titles, Rock Band. I've had parties with almost all of these games, so any of them are really solid number 1 picks. But yeah, that's my list, and that's the end of definitive ranking, Kyle.
We did it.
But before we wrap up, I do want to acknowledge
Love Shack made it on there.
Chef's Love Shack. Oh God, I don't. You left off Mario Party for Chef's Love Shack.
I know. Look, it was a bit. It was a specific. I went for the joke, and it was worth it.
Well, Kyle, I do want to acknowledge a few anniversaries that hit this week. One of them I'm going to go into a little bit of depth, but not anywhere near as what we've done in the past. Just because I've done some interviews on this particular game very recently. First up, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on NES turned 35 years old, which makes me feel 135 years old hearing this.
Right, yeah.
It was developed by Konami, who handled development for most of the early and most beloved TMNT games, we'll say. And last year, I actually spoke with TMNT co-creator Kevin Eastman for a feature that I wrote for Game Informer about the history of Ninja Turtles in video games. By the way, go to GameInformer.com and find that by searching Turtle Power. I think that's probably the easiest way to find that article. It covers the entire history of TMNT all the way up to the upcoming Last Ronin and Mutants Unleashed, whatever the new one that's based on the Mutant Mayhem movie. And here's what Kevin Eastman had to say about working with Konami. He said, quote, Konami was one of the first ones that approached us, and they seemed sincere, and I'll say politely aggressive in that. We were a little naive and very cocky and knew just enough to be dangerous and want to protect our creation. And so with Konami, we said, yep, this is great. This is what we want. And they said, great, yep, we'll do that. We'll work with you. We want you to be involved in it. You created something that has become successful, and we want to know why and treat it right to make sure it translates. It was positive from the earliest stages. And then I also spoke with Charles Murakami, who was the producer of TMNT, the Cowabunga Collection with Konami. So he's actually a Konami employee. He said, quote, the comic book influence of the NES game is very strong. The cover itself is an alternate cover of issue number 4, in which they had red bandanas. You could see the influence because of the TV show, because there's Rocksteady and Bebop, and in the game, the turtles have different colored bandanas. But it's kind of like this weird mix between the two, but with a very heavy comic book influence. So that's why that kind of explains why there's so much strangeness in that game. And the TMNT NES game is known for its high level of difficulty, but also it has a lot of cool concepts. Like you choose which turtle you want to play as. Each has their own weapon. If they get defeated, they don't like die. They're just captured and you can go rescue them later. And as you're exploring the city, you do so from the top-down view, and then you go into the stages and it's side-scrolling. And it's perhaps most well-known for the infamous underwater level where you have to defuse bombs and avoid electrified seaweed. Did you ever play that level, Kyle?
No, I missed this one. Like this was I was mostly a Super Nintendo kid, so I was.
But you know that level, right?
Oh yes, I'm familiar with it. Absolutely.
Very, very famous level that people just complain about how difficult it is, and I never was able to get past it as a kid. I've gotten past it in the subsequent years, but as a kid, I remember being like, "Oh, this is awesome! I get to play as the turtles." And then I got to that, I'm like, "Yeah, I think I'm done with this game."
It's like, well, I'll never see beyond this level. Oh well.
So Kevin Eastman also gave me a quote on that level. Actually, he said, "Quote." When the NES game came out, we would have people approach us at conventions and different appearances that TMNT co-creator Peter Laird and I would do and be very angry with us because why did we make it so hard to play? And Peter and I were like, we can't even win. To this day, I still haven't gotten through the water level. I tried a lot, but they were really challenging.
It's genuinely nice to know that he was playing the game. You know what I mean? Because like so often in that era of like creations and stuff, the creator would have been like, "Yeah, we just outsourced a video game and never thought about it again." But it's nice to know that he was like, "Yeah, I played it and wanted to see what it was." And yeah,
that was a recurring theme with him in the conversations was that he not only did they learn their lesson from like Jack Kirby from Marvel of like. Because the problem that Jack Kirby faced was he created all these iconic characters for Marvel, and then it turned out he didn't have any ownership rights to any of them. Marvel owned all of them. So basically, when he and Peter Laird created TMNT, they were like, "Well, all these licensing deals. Not only are we going to retain IP ownership of it, but we're also going to have a say in all of these things." So like they were involved heavily with like the video game creations. They were involved with like. Basically, the way he told me is like whether it was a lunchbox or like a glow in the dark T-shirt or the video games, we were involved in some way, like giving our input and like working with the companies that were making these things. So that was really innovative of them actually at this time. This is like the mid to late 80s.
Like,
yeah. Yeah. So that TMNT NES came to the US June 25th, 1989. So happy 35th birthday to that game. Obviously, I think Turtles in Time is widely regarded as the best Ninja Turtles game of the 90s, or of that era at least. Maybe Shredder's Revenge has superseded that at this point. But TMNT NES was a very innovative game. And if you want to check it out, it's available on modern platforms through the aforementioned Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection, which Atari 50 developer Digital Eclipse did. So very thorough package there as well.
Yeah.
Next up, the second of 3 games we're going to highlight here. Not the next 2 are not in nearly as much depth as that, but Shovel Knight turned 10 years old this week. And a retro-style pixel art 2D action platformer. It originally debuted on the 3DS and Wii U on June 26, 2014. Kyle, how old does that make you feel?
That makes me feel older than Ninja Turtles, honestly, because I remember covering Shovel Knight at Game Informer and playing it on 3DS, and I love that game. It's a great game, but it's like, man, it didn't occur to me that I was 10 years old. Oh my god.
Yeah. So it uses the 8-bit graphical style, pays homage to various NES games, so it makes it a perfect fit for Nintendo platforms. And that first campaign eventually received 3 additional campaigns: Plague of Shadows, Spectre of Torment, and King of Cards. And then a fighting game called Shovel Knight Showdown. And it's also extremely well reviewed. The Metacritic is in the low 90s or high 80s for almost all platforms that it's on. And there have been several spin-offs and cameos. Like I think he's in Yooka-Laylee, and
yeah, he's all over the place.
Is he in Brawlhalla, I think?
Yep.
And I think he's a trophy in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So, yeah,
he's
all over the place, man. Shovel Knight. And then, as I covered last week, as part of the 10-year anniversary celebration, developer Yacht Club Games announced that a new Shovel Knight game is in the works. So, if you want to play Shovel Knight, the Treasure Trove, which is basically the complete Shovel Knight experience, is available on Switch and every other modern platform. And then one that's not going to make us feel quite so old, but maybe, Super Mario Maker 2 turned 5.
I mean, that does make me feel old. I mean, that feels like it came out yesterday.
So we don't need to spend too much time on this one, but it took a lot of what made the first one great, including the ability to make and share your own Mario levels. And then you can also play new levels created by Nintendo. And then it added some new features and elements to that whole formula. And then one of the big new features was having the Super Mario 3D World theme. And it also included new Mario music from Koji Kondo, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then as part of the post-launch updates, it let you string together your own levels and create your own worlds, which was kind of like a dream come true for me. I don't know if you were like me, but like I had notebooks. I still have them, actually. I think one of them's on my... I just saw it. I have a notebook from when I was a kid where I would actually create Mario levels. And then on like the next page, I would have like the overworld map that they would be housed in.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I never went that extreme, but yeah, I reviewed both the Mario Maker games, I think.
Yeah, I do remember you reviewing Mario Maker 2.
But yeah, those games are fun. Those games are cool.
But unfortunately, the Switch version, for some reason, didn't take off like the Wii U version did, relatively speaking. I don't know, like the Switch version obviously sold more copies, but the Wii U version I felt like made a bigger impact when it came out. Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Because it was the newness of it, right? Like by the time Mario Maker 2 rolled around, it's like, yeah, we know what this is. We've done this before. I genuinely think that the gamepad does make it easier to design levels, and also like, so it's like you could kind of you could get your ideas out of your brain onto the screen easier with the gamepad, I think. So it just made it, people were just doing more with it, even though Mario Maker 2 had more options and that kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's those two elements. Like the gamepad was huge, would actually helped a lot, and it was also like it was a cool idea that we were all excited about.
Yeah, that's one of those times where I'm like, yeah, the gamepad was instrumental in that. But either way, I really love Super Mario Maker 2, and if you decide to check it out, if you're listening to this episode, let me know, and I will pass you my level codes so you can see what kind of stages I created back when I was playing that all the time.
Yeah, and since I reviewed it, I had played an advanced version of it, so when it came out, all my levels were deleted. So
no,
I can't share my level codes. I'm sorry.
That's a bummer. But Kyle, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of All Things Nintendo.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thank you so much to everyone for listening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, throw All Things Nintendo a 5-star review and hit that subscribe button. If you want to get any questions or comments in, you can get in touch with me at brian@allthingsnintendo.com. Hit me up on social media at Brian P. Shea, or leave a comment on the free All Things Nintendo Patreon page. Also, be sure to find All Things Nintendo on YouTube and subscribe to that channel. You can search for All Things Nintendo or visit at Brian P. Shea on YouTube. Kyle, tell everyone the location of you on the internet.
Just search Kyle Hilliard, Kyle M. Hilliard. Go track me down. You'll find me.
That is our show for this week. Thank you all again so much for listening. Take care. We'll see you next time.